Hi everybody and welcome to TalkChain. Today we're going to get into the continuing rise of the crypto markets. We're going to get into the US government shutdown and what you need to know. And finally we're going to get into a little bit of MakerCoin and why it may or may not be a better alternative to USD Tether. Rob, how you doing?
Doing well, Matt. How are you?
I'm doing great. Doing pretty good.
Glad we got a
Especially
reunion back up here.
Yes, it's been good. Your picture looks crystal clear, and I think everybody's going to be happy to see you now.
Nice.
So I'm happy also because the coin total market cap is at $633 billion, which last night we really got a nice spike in absolutely everything, it seems. Bitcoin dominance still around 34%. Across the board, though, it's looking pretty good. So the U.S. government decides to shut down because the Senate is a total disaster and they cannot get their shit together. And as soon as that happened, Bitcoin sort of spiked. And I'm kind of surprised because it seems like a lot of the macro events we've seen so far in terms of government, unless it's specifically related to crypto, hasn't really led to any big changes.
No, not at all. It's tough though because you're seeing this trend pretty consistently with really any sort of government issue. When there was the bailout in Greece, everything jumped pretty drastically, and the obviously the entire market itself started because of the global recession in 2008.
Yeah, that's true. But I think given that there's so much, I mean, if we're looking at crypto as sort of, or Bitcoin or any of these coins as a store of value, we would expect it to be related a lot to the US dollar, or we can actually look at gold prices and see how they change based off of macro events. And yeah, I don't remember at all that Greece drama. Do you remember what year that was?
I think it was 2014, 2015, something around that time.
Okay.
No, and I can understand that like gold would have kind of a similar input, but I think gold is in the past. Our money isn't linked to gold anymore, and people genuinely believe that Bitcoin is going to be the money of the future, or crypto, whatever fiat coin is going to be the money of the future. So any discredit to the current system is considered a credit to the future system, to everyone that's in this market.
Yeah, I buy that, but I don't buy it just because if we really are, if the Bitcoin store value people are going to be honest with themselves, they should see money shifting from gold to Bitcoin eventually, and it really hasn't happened. And I know there's a lot of things that are involved in that in terms of the availability of exchanges allowing you to actually buy Bitcoin. It's much easier to get gold right now, but you know, it's not been in terms of money of the future. It has a long way to go.
It definitely does, but that doesn't stop the people who are in it and have easy access to it from making that quick transaction for it.
Right, but gold's been unaffected by the crypto markets thus far.
So far, yes, for sure.
So far, and not to say it won't change in the future, but it's interesting to me that this sort of government shutdown event actually led to a difference in Bitcoin. Just given that the chances that this is going to actually be some sort of tangible negative effect from a short-term government shutdown is essentially zero, and I don't think there's any question that it's zero. Like, nothing is going to change. Anybody who's going to lose pay from this government shutdown is going to get that all in back pay.
I definitely agree with you there. So, question then: do you think that there will be an equivalent drop once it starts back up again, once the government comes to a deal and everything chugs along smoothly?
Yeah. So given that I'm surprised that this bumped up, I don't think the government coming back online is going to change the price, only because it seems like Bitcoin just wants an excuse to go higher, and I think that's more what we saw. All this volume coming in. Now it could be a lot of foreign players that are pumping the price up and don't really understand that the government shutdown is sort of meaningless, and they're just buying it up for some reason. But I don't think when the government comes back on, it's gonna have any effect, only because it's so expected.
Right. Yeah, because I guess it is universally expected that that it will just go to business as usual, and and maybe that's just already priced into it by now.
Yeah. So I don't know. I'm happy though, and if we need the government to shut down in order to get higher crypto prices, I welcome a complete destruction of the United States government.
Yeah, if Mitch McConnell can continue this fight for another 2-3 weeks, so we can pump it up a little more, that would be ideal for me personally.
Yeah, definitely, and especially if they're unable to get legislation passed in terms of regulating cryptocurrencies, I think that would also be a large benefit to this space.
For sure. And you know what? It really helps me as a Canadian because it literally affects me in zero ways. And
Yeah.
everyone else that's outside of the United States, it's only great news for us.
Yeah, that's definitely true. Although I look at it as great news because I don't see the government doing anything beneficial. But uh, so yeah, actually, why don't I want to ask you about this, Rob? Are there big headlines in Canada right now about sort of regulation or about what's gonna come down the pipe for crypto?
Definitely not. I've never seen it on any news site at all in this country. Um,
Really?
no, so it basically covers what every other country is doing.
Mm,
So like when there was the Korea thing, and it's really just because of the waves that Bitcoin takes with it. So it's
mm,
Bitcoin falls because of this,
yeah.
but no one has brought it up yet. Yeah, and we don't seem to have any of the same problems, even with like banks taking issue with it. Nothing has
Mm,
come up yet, so it's all pretty
mm.
smooth sailing. We've got Justin Trudeau. We all have faith in Justin Trudeau. Just kidding. Some of us do not at all. But he seems to be a pretty forward thinker. He's a young guy. So hopefully he will get a good understanding of it and will not bother with it at all.
Right. Did you happen to catch the Senate hearing with Andreas Antonopoulos in the Canadian Senate?
No, I didn't. Tell me all
Oh,
about
really?
it.
I didn't watch the whole thing, but he's obviously a very, very quality speaker on the topic, and they just asked him a bunch of questions about how they should regulate Bitcoin, and I think he pretty much said that you don't want to regulate something before it has a chance to actually be used in the world.
Hmm.
So to be sort of cautious with over regulating too quickly.
Yeah, for sure. And speaking of being used, it looks like people are actually making some pretty quick transactions on the Lightning Network, which is very promising for everybody.
Yeah, yeah. I actually noticed a couple articles about that. I think the one hurdle for that is actual adoption, and they need to get their act together because there's a bunch of different projects that are coming online that really are much faster, much more efficient, and there's no reason why they couldn't overtake Bitcoin, other than just the obvious fact that Bitcoin's got the first mover advantage and it's much more well adopted. But a better competitor could overtake them if they drag their feet, if Bitcoin and the developers drag their feet with rolling this stuff out.
Right, for sure. So, what do you think? What do you think it would take for even some remote mainstream adoption? Like, what kind of company would have to be involved, or do you think it would have to be like a number of large companies?
Yeah, I think it's uh anything is better, but it's really for I get, are you asking about Bitcoin in specific or anything?
Anything like if Facebook were to take one of these on,
Mm,
how much would that change things?
yeah. And I think depending on the coin and the applicability. So if Bitcoin started being used as a payment system, and I guess it is in a lot of different areas, but I think the hurdles that include sort of the volatility of the price don't make it ideal right now,
Hmm.
and sort of the speed of transaction also doesn't make it ideal. So all of these things are really going to be hindrances from people wanting to use it as a currency. So I think from both ends, the network itself is being ideal in terms of payment speed and price volatility, and also it being an option for other payers as being accepted. So until both of those sort of align with each other, I think it's still going to remain this sort of fringe payment system.
Yeah, no, I guess that's a good point. Um, because there are people who genuinely believe that Bitcoin will be worth $100,000 up to $1 million at some point in their lifetime. So people are obviously hesitant to spend it. Nobody wants to be that
Yeah,
pizza guy.
yeah, yeah, no doubt. Neither. I would hate to be that pizza guy right now. Um, yeah, so that's the other thing too, is that given that the price is so volatile, it's hard to push people to actually trade with it and use it for exchange rather than just buying and holding. So, and there's other better systems out there right now. Like Ryblock seems to be pretty interesting in terms of how efficient it is, and maybe it'll be the currency, and Bitcoin does just end up being a store of value. But I don't know. It sort of remains to be seen how these altcoins are going to get mainstream attention like Bitcoin has.
Mm.
And we've talked about these issues just in general of it being adopted. And yeah, I don't know what's going to happen. But one of the things I think that made it easier for us to trade with altcoins is the Tether, USDT.
Mm-hmm.
And we haven't really talked about this, but it was big. It was making big headlines last fall because of the lack of auditing that's been gone on in this company and its relation to what was the exchange that it's part of?
Mm.
I'm trying.
I'm not entirely sure. I'm not entirely sure what it is.
Oh, it's Bitfinex.
Oh, okay.
So Bitfinex is like co-owners with the Tether company, and they're the ones that have issued the Tether. And yeah, so there were rumors going around about how it's a scam, and how the price of Bitcoin is only going up because it's fabricated due to the illegitimate release of Tether coins that are posing as US dollars. So that kind of went the way of the dodo a few months ago, and just nobody talked about it because there was other news, and they're still gone without an audit. There's no real updates on what's going on. A lot of people are weary about holding Tether, but it's really allowed a lot of companies to come out and use Tether rather than have to get backing from an actual bank and continue to do business.
Well, yeah, it's interesting because of the lack of audits, and that's why you're seeing other companies popping up that are having a similar premise on having stability coins while at the same time ensuring that they're audited by reputable sources. So
Mm-hmm.
if we can shift to Maker, whose first product goes by the name of DAI, which is supposed to be similar to Tether in the fact that it's stable. It's supposed to be linked to the US dollar. Pegged to the US dollar. It's new, and they have been audited by PwC, like PricewaterhouseCoopers, and that's a big difference from Tether, who is operating with like $1.6 billion in outstanding tokens without anyone ever checking or ensuring that they can repay all of these loans, essentially.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so they're sort of coming on. They definitely are not at all to the same size as Tether, but I guess the Tether issue has prompted the start of these stability coins. And it seems like there's a convoluted way that they're gonna peg the DAI value to the US dollar, but they intend on doing it through the use of these collateralized debt positions, and also through putting up Ether in these debts. and they can liquidate the debts based on whether or not the value of Ether drops. And the I encourage you to check out their website, because the video they had sort of laid out the different ways that they're gonna that are gonna exist to control the price and keep the price of DAI near the US dollar.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how it goes. Like DAIs have only existed for less than a month.
Oh, really?
And it does look like they had some issues around January 10th or January 11th, where it kind of crashed for a short period of time. So it is pretty new. There are only 9 million in circulating supply right now, but that they do intend for that to grow. And I think the main use case for the Maker coin itself is for the fees on DAI. So DAI has something called stability fees, and those are paid through Maker. So the more DAI that are used and adopted and put on different exchanges, even if it were to grow to like a Tether size, theoretically, the more the demand would be for Maker coin, which has gone through the roof. I think it's in the top like 30, top 50 right now.
Yeah, it's ranked 37 right now.
Yeah. Yeah, number 37, which is, it actually blows my mind because of really how new it is. I understand that Maker is it's a few years old, and it's based on the Ether network, but DAI itself is pretty new.
Yeah. So it will be neat, and it's going to suffer through the same sort of growing pains as every other altcoin in becoming adopted. And that's the tough thing with this, the coins that need to be adopted by the masses for them to have real applicability. I think it's a very difficult task to get that. And Bitcoin has done what it could to get where it is, and after 10 years, it's still relatively fringe in terms of being used as a payment system, and how the scalability issues has made it difficult to be well adopted. But seemingly, this could, if it's better, if they have a good rollout, if they have a good team in terms of getting marketing and people to use it, then maybe it could be the blockchain solution to currency.
Definitely. But I think a lot of it depends on whether or not Tether ever follows through and gets an audit. Because if they do, and it turns out that everything is fine, then it kind of eliminates the purpose for it.
Yeah, I guess so. And their system, the Tether system, is very simple. It just has the value of $1 US, I guess. Yeah, but I don't know. The interesting part of the Maker DAI system is that it seems like you could get loans this way. So there's some sort of derivative value that you can get from this, and people get fees paid for giving out these loans. I don't know too much about the details of that, but it seems like there's not just the use of it as a currency, where it'll have other uses, or people can use it as getting a loan.
Yeah, it's definitely something that we're going to have to look more into. I've tried to read about it a number of times, and it seems pretty complicated. Even a For Dummies article is still pretty complicated. So I do look forward to sorting that out, and I'm sure the people at Maker will make some more elaborate videos to be reviewed by the masses, so it can be adopted a little easier.
Yeah. So are you buying it?
I'm not going to buy it. I'm not going to buy Maker as of now, because there's only 9 million DAI out there. If it gets on an exchange, then I might change my mind. If it gets on Binance, that's a game changer. If it gets on any Korean exchanges, game changer. But as of now, I'm going to hold off a little bit. What about you?
I don't understand it well enough to buy it. Not that that has stopped me from buying
Yeah, I was
something
about to
before,
say that'd be a first for you.
but I don't see it as being a solving a real problem that people have right now. I think there's other solutions that are okay and that are maintaining right now. That could definitely change in the next coming months. It seems like this space moves very quickly, so we'll see. And I might be missing out because it looks like it's got a lot of stuff behind it.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see just how everything pans out with the whole lending platform and whether people buy into it or not. There's going to be people smarter than me that do understand it and think that they can benefit from it, and whether or not, and those people will report on that, and hopefully we'll all have an understanding before that happens.
Yeah, yeah, that's fair. So I don't know, Bob. I think we should wrap it up there. If you like what we're doing, please like or subscribe our channel. And if you don't have a Binance or a KuCoin account, use mine or Rob's. Uh, Links in the description.
Ooh,
And
sorry to interrupt, Matt. One other thing. KuCoin has stopped their incentive program, actually, which just happened a couple days ago, I think.
oh,
So
really?
that's no longer an option for us. But Binance, if you'd like to sign up to my Binance account, you should do that. Use my referral code. You'll make way more money than if you use Matt's. Not financial advice or guaranteed.
So double check Rob's comments about KuCoin because KuCoin was doing really well for me with that incentive program. So I'm gonna have to look into that immediately. But with that, thank you everybody for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Take care.